So we will talk about Vajrayana. We will also, refer to or overlap with the Mahayana again and again. One could say the way Mahayana look at the path is, I think we will use this classic classification. We use the word ground, path, and the result. So ground, when we talk about ground, we are talking about sort of the base. This is not so simple, but just for the introduction, I'll give you some traditional example. One example we already shared yesterday, we already talked yesterday during the question and answering time. I use the analogy of the snake and the appearance of the snake. After the switching on the light, no snake, but then the fact that the rope just doesn't have one, even for a moment, it doesn't even for a moment become a snake in reality. Therefore, it cannot also experience no more snake. Now that, there's many ways to present what ground is, and that, the rope, the pure rope, before snake and no snake, that can be understood as the ground, which is a good one. It's we can make it more, we can refine it more, but this is a good one. Now, remember yesterday I said during the path, we also use a lot of path language. In fact, that's all we use, path language. And even the very notion of ground, path, and the result is a path language. The very struggle or a very necessary to point out to somebody, this is a rope, this is not a snake, only exists because there was a delusion of thinking there's a snake. Sorry, this is very little technical, but this is kind of important. Okay, I want to make it also very practical, because too much philosophy and too much technical language, probably you may feel it's kind of out of reach. Let's do that now. Let's just look inside. Inside is just a word. Okay, let's be quiet for a while. Air conditioning, that snake. I don't know, so many thoughts, whatever you have, those are all snake. And what usually happens is something like this. Air conditioning. Is it cold enough? Is it circulating enough? Is it good enough for this much people? Is it bad for the environment? That snake is becoming real fat. Okay? Anyway, more importantly, just again, let's be silent for a while. There are moments when there's no thoughts, but you are also not fainted. You are not in coma. You haven't become a pebble or a piece of wood. That is ground. Okay. Now let's go back to the, academical. So ground. You always have this actually. Now, anyway, path. We are talking about a path. Now the path is only necessary because you thought there's an appearance of snake, but worse than that, there was a fear, panic. So obviously you don't want to be in pain. So then you need a solution, and that is path, and that includes that includes things like, depending on, remember I already told you, depending on what kind of you are, somebody might want to actually even agree that there is a snake. Or somebody just says, oh no, there's no snake. Oh, I see, there's no snake. So all kinds. But it doesn't matter whether someone actually had to use this trick to make you think that there is a snake, or someone says, oh no, there's no snake. It doesn't matter. Rope hasn't changed at all. Now, after applying the path, these methods, when there's a relief, that's a result. Many of you, the old seasoned, students, you have heard these examples a lot. But, I will use two more. One, again, another classic one, which is, and I want to use this because, the second one, because in case you want to receive tantric initiation, so like a abhisheka, this example is useful. Because the word abhisheka has the connotation of pour or install. So let's say you have a dirty laundry. Now you want to make it clean. You want to abhishek. You want to install. You want to make your dirty laundry clean. Okay, the tantric attitude is like this. The laundry is by nature not dirty. Not only tantric, even Mahayana actually. Dirt is something you collect temporarily, and it's a alien. Yeah, it's not its nature. When you bought your shirt, the dirt did not come with it. Well, hopefully not. Anyway, they don't sell, oh, this is a wool, this is cashmere, this has like 5 ounces of dirt. You don't pay for it. So the cloth is by nature not dirty. So you cannot make the cloth clean. What you are doing is you are removing something that is not cloth. These are very, very generic statement, okay? So just so that we can communicate. But for a practitioner, for a deluded follower, one could go through the excitement of buying the soap, the laundry machine, the washing, and then when everything is finished, so clean, all that you can go through. And just as thinking the cloth by nature is a dirt, is a delusion, thinking I will be free from the delusion is also a delusion. So many times the word abhisheka, we understand this as a pouring, installing the clean state, Okay, now another example. This one, I sort of made it up. I cannot get all the credit. It's also inspired by very prominent Nyingmapa masters, such as Jigme Lingpa and all that. So it is something to do with the alcohol. After drinking a lot of alcohol or a little bit of alcohol, we get drunk. But when we stop drinking, when the alcohol's sort of power subsides, you then arrive to the normal state. And that is a liberation. Because you come reach to the, but then the problem with us is we keep on drinking, keep on drinking. Now, so what I want to say is, by nature, you are not drunk. There is an attack of alien. So you are at the moment under the influence of these alien. By nature, you are sober. Now managing to grab hold of this sober state, sane state. I'm using Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche's word, sanity, sober. This is liberation. And I want to tell you this because so-called nirvana, liberation, is very much achievable. Very much. It's quite ridiculous why we keep on thinking it's so far away, and we keep on, it's very reachable. And I'm not even talking about you will reach some sort of a mediocre sanity for, and maybe you will become sort of calm and, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about something much more. I am talking about what Chetsun Senghe Shora, great master, he said, if you do this, especially, some of the tantric practice, diligently, within 6 months, your body will become rainbow. But that 6 months is quite a exercise though. That's actually doable, really doable. So, and when I say rainbow body, I'm not talking about some poetic, symbolic, metaphorical rainbow body. I'm actually talking about rainbow. I'm talking about appearance and emptiness together. Just like the rainbow. Rainbow is so beautiful, appearance, like its diameter, the color combination, the order, they're also intact. But that intactness does not negate the emptiness aspect of it. While it's beautifully appearing, simultaneously it is also emptiness. And that kind of rainbow I'm talking about. And it's really achievable. Because, okay, let's choose just anything. Let's choose East. Or actually, let's choose South, since we are in the South America. And that's so ridiculous. Why are you South American? Why do you get to have South? Why you prefer South? South, North, East, all these yes. That's like that's like more ridiculous than kids building house in the sand. This is my kitchen. Kids, they build this. This is kitchen. This is bedroom. This is where mommy is going to stay. All of that. So South. So the direction, space, time, gender. So even from that angle, you can fathom rainbow body. Okay, this does not mean that when you reach, not not even completely, but barely halfway rainbow body. This does not mean that you become sort of a person with a, what do you call it, dementia or Alzheimer, because you have reached rainbow body, so you have no more self. So now you don't know how to go back to Chile. It's not like this. We don't even need to go to Tantra this moment. We can, even in the Sutrayana, this is taught. There's a very beautiful, and this is translated into English and probably in Spanish. Nowadays, you can use AI translator, instantly it gets translated, right? There's a sutra called Ndode Palpoche, Avatamsaka Sutra. There used to be a professor in America. He died. He said, reading Avatamsaka Sutra is like watching Star Wars, like much, but like 100 times better. It is about a young bodhisattva visiting his teachers. He will visit one teacher, and this teacher will say, "Oh yeah, but there is another teacher. You should go there because he or she can teach so much." All that, and it's such a beautiful sutra. And the young bodhisattva get sent by one of the teacher to the next one. Even the journey are very, very nice, very, very symbolic. Like, I forget the orders and the numbers. There's 52 teachers starting from the teacher number 1 all the way to the 52. One of the teachers says, okay, you should go to the next one. And sometimes there's instructions. You should go to cross this mountain, climb this mountain, cross this river, go through this valley, go through this forest, then you will find your next teacher. So the young bodhisattva go through all that hardship, and then he finds his teacher. He learns from this teacher. And then, I don't know, months, years later, this teacher says, oh, you should go to the next one. And then he was, where, and can you give me a map or something, instructions? And then there's one episode where there's no instructions. You just have to wait.
Yeah,
you just have to wait. You understand? I mean, even just that is such a profound statement, right? Just not searching, just waiting, that longing, just long, but you don't know where you are waiting, just wait. And then the teacher appears. And then many teachers are what usually we expect a teacher look like. Beard, like long, all that, sort of all that. But some are not. One teacher is I think 7 years old kid that he will have to find on a beach playing with some other kids. The bodhisattva will find him after many, many years of searching for the kid. Finding the kid, he will just, like throw all his body, cry, I've been looking for you to this kid. I really like this kid's teaching. I used to always read it again and again. Because the kid teaches him number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all that. And then, but it's so profound because after a while, for us, we don't have words like, what do we have? Trillion? That's about the all highest we have, right? And then what do you call it? The smallest is 0 or 1. The kid has names much more than trillion. And actually, the names, trillion, what? So as you read, they're almost like gibberish. It's like a kid talking, gibberish, like just a sound. It's some of them are just a sound, like kaka, cha cha, nana, like that. But then you realize the number is all, the number that we have, like 4, 5, is all gibberish. Anyway, one of the teacher is a prostitute. And the only way to receive her teaching is by becoming the customer. It's really, really beautiful sutra, this one. But I think because sutras are quite long, so I think a lot of people sort of not read these, but also not available for a long time, I guess. The sutra was one of the most revered and popular in China. In fact, in many Chinese monasteries and caves, they have depiction of this bodhisattva's travel. Anyway, I was talking about path, and in the path, there's a language, symbolism, stories, like what I've just told you. Okay? Now, there's a ground, there's the path, then there's the result. Talked about that. Okay. Now, Mahayana way of thinking is that these three are sort of separate. It's a bit like you are looking at the laundry and then it's dirty. And now I'm washing and then it becomes clean. So they are separate. Now in the Tantrayana, attitude is they are not separate. It doesn't matter whether you wash or not, the cloth is just always the Tantra. Actually also means continuity. You can keep your dirty laundry in a basket for 1 million years. The actual cloth has never dirty. This dirt is nothing to do with the cloth. But that's the tantric attitude. That's the tantric view of life. Tantric view of life is really precious. If you are asking me, I would say, if there's no Tantra, there's no point of living in this earth. It is just so precious. Just so precious. Just in every level, philosophically, just every level. It has amazing upaya, skillful means. In fact, all the things that other religion and even among the Buddhists, other things that they can't use, Tantric can use it. So, like in a certain Buddhist discipline, it may say, oh, don't, you should not shop, let's say. Okay, something like, oh, you already have too many nail polish. Like it's so greedy buying too many nail polish. Waste of money, no space in the cupboard anyway. But in the Tantra, they will say, oh, no, you are the deity. You are the Deva. You are the Devi. Buy every hour if you can. It's an offering to yourself. But, I have to tell you, that's not necessarily easier. It may sound like, is that not necessarily easier to apply? Because basically in the Tantra, you are not supposed to have a wrong view towards yourself. And that's a difficult. You cannot in the morning look at the mirror and think, oh, how horrible I look. You cannot think like that. But you should shampoo your hair, you should put foundations, everything as an offering. You see, so it's a little difficult. It's not that easy in one way. So you are using these things not because you think you are not perfect. Okay, now a little bit of conversation on Vajra. Vajra, I don't know whether there's an English word for Vajra. Some people even use diamond, but definitely not. Because the Tibetan and the Sanskrit word Vajra translated into Tibetan Dorje, which has a lot of connotation. The main connotation of Vajra is unsplittable. And diamond you can split into rings, nose rings, you can cut, right? Some maybe a good example is maybe sky. Well, although we do split the sky, unsplittable meaning undestructible. Nothing can destroy it. Nothing can persuade it. Nothing can contaminate it. Nothing can influence. Yeah, that's Vajra. Okay. Now, what is it? What is this? You already found out earlier. So let's be silent a little bit. Thinking of air conditioning, that's not it. That's splittable. You don't want to think about air conditioning, then think about a coffee. Then you think about something else, all splittable. But there is something else that is unsplittable. That much all is I can say now, because in order to really construct this teaching, you need to hear the whole tantric, Maha, Anu, and Ati Yoga teachings. Let's say if you are doing the Nyingma tradition. And then for that, you need a bit of a preparation. And I'm not saying that you should do Ngondro. Yeah, of course, that also. But the real Ngondro meaning, sort of a preparation in many ways, preparation with your attitude, preparation to enlarge your capacity, so to speak. If I do like this, and I said, this is Buddha. Right now, no capacity to think this is Buddha, because you are stuck with 2,500 years ago. He was born in Lumbini. He was the son of this and that. This Buddha? Not possible. Which means you are narrow-minded, which means you have no capacity, which means you are, so developing the vessel yourself. That's Ngondro. That's what Ngondro is for. Obviously, it can't be polishing a, plate 100,000 times, throwing some rice on it. Well, it could help. It could help. That's why lamas prescribe. I'm really itching to, sort of, write some new Ngondro method. It will have all these, the mandala, refuge, all of that. But it should have other things. So developing mental capacity, basically. It's doable, by the way. It's doable. Ngondro is just basically, I have to say this while it's in my head, otherwise it would go. In my idea of, what is it, the Ngondro for people, I was thinking even maybe have like Che Guevara and ask people to prostrate. This is specially for Americans, specially designed for them. I'm telling you, I'm sharing you this just so that you know what Ngondro is for. It's really, really to release yourself from a certain values, hang-ups, and a certain, certain principles. No more principles. It'll difficult, but it's doable. It's all doable. If people spend money and climb Mount Everest, now that is one of the most useless things to do, actually, from my point of view. But if people can do that, this is much more easy. But I guess your merit, karmic connection, all this plays an important role. I know when I see these mountaineering people in Kathmandu, why they do this? But they must get so excited when they see the mountains. Karmic connection, karmic link, So I guess we need to develop the karmic link, create the karmic consequences. And by the way, that is also part of the ngondo. That's why there's things like mandala offering. Is you are trying to accumulate that kind of karmic situation. For instance, like some of the, if I loosely translate some of the mandala offering, if I just give you an example, you are saying that I offer this jewels, the mountains, the river, the human beings, the house, the garments, the food, so that by making these offerings, may I be able to long for things that cannot be longed. May I have the admiration towards things cannot be explained. May I reduce this obsession towards logic. May I reduce this obsession towards things that make sense. May I long for this ground. That's what it is. You know, the ground we talked earlier. May I really wish to know this and really dwell in it. That's what it is for. You know, for instance, like mandala offering, and then like a refuge. It's a similar thing. It's a similar thing. Okay, so again, going back to Tantra. And this time I'm going to use somehow Guhya Garbha Tantra. So I'm just going to use one example. Maybe you might like this. You're from this country that has a lot of what ordinary people call magical. So in the Tantra, especially in this specific Tantra, Guhya Garbha Tantra, it talks about net of magical phantasmagoral net. Sometimes even they use the word matrix, right? Matrix. Let's use magic. Magic is good. So the Tantra thinks, yes, everything is magical. Everything is a net of this, what? Phantasmagoral. Yeah. This is a very big subject. So let's see how we could, just for your example. I think one we already used earlier when we talk about the rainbow. Okay. So there are three aspects. In the Guhya Garbha Tantra, they say Ju, Chul, Ja. Ju means something like illusion, fake. It's also derived from the Sanskrit word Maya. It's fake. Now, Chul mean the second word is emanation, and then Java means net. You know, sort of very delicate, intricate, sort of a system. So for magic has that. I mean, the rainbow has that. That, you know, the intact, it's not really there, it's fake. But there's emanation of a beautiful color, rainbow, you know, like circle, whatever. And those two are tightly, organized, so to speak. Okay, so that's a good example to begin with. So now, I think someone asked yesterday, how can anger be wisdom? This illusory, emanating net. Okay, so to put it in a very crude, it's like this carpet. When we look at the carpet, that which we like, you are deceived by the wholeness. But so if I say, oh, you like this carpet, I will give you, and I'll just take out one string and give you, you won't like it. You kind of like it sort of when they're all put together. You understand? So the thread and the, I don't know, that form, you know, so tightly sort of is a nice net. So yes, like that, anger, wisdom, samsara, nirvana, everything. That's how Tantra understand, Tantric view. I think we kind of talk enough about sort of the view, the logic of the view. Now let's talk a little bit about the method. So the method really varies depending on, remember the snake, depending on what kind of people you are, can be very simple. Oh, this is not a snake, all the way to complicated method of, oh yeah, there is a snake, let me throw out. But there's a two method that's quite encouraged, popular, probably easy to comprehend. And those are Sampanikrama, Panikrama, which is creation, the yoga of creation, yoga of dissolution. And they are not like within the one yoga, the other yoga is there too. You cannot separate. Okay, so then comes all the concept of deities. This particularly drives me crazy when the Buddhism a little bit, but mainly Tantric Buddhism, along with Hinduism, maybe so-called Hinduism in India. Just imagine when the Mughals invaded India, followed by the English, Mughals, Muslims, Europeans, mostly Christians. Well, I guess they have their own so-called good motivation. So they look at these tantric people and they say, oh my goodness, these are really, really doomed. They worship goddesses with the tongues coming out, the skull, the blood, and then they have these, like, I don't know, all kinds of gory stuff. And they think these are really, these guys need to be taught. These guys need to be fixed, basically. And then, they destroyed almost all of these statues, shunned them, all of that. And even worse than that is the Indian themselves. This is, I guess, this is always the case with the, domineering power and the subject. The subject always end up trying to please the, masters. So I think the Indians also, they really try to, some of them, they must think, oh yeah, maybe we are real primitive. Maybe we are, we are backward. So yeah, so this really bugs me a lot, but what to do? For instance, right now in India, they will kind of proudly flaunt deity like Saraswati because she's kind of acceptable, a nice girl with a sitar, kind of. But Kali, they almost, oh, we don't know this. It's like they try to stay away, especially with the elite Indians, so-called educated Indians. I'm sorry, you Chileans, you have to bear what I'm saying. But suddenly I remembered that this is in Zoom, so I know some of the Indians may be listening, so I'm really talking to them. Have you been to India, some of you? See, like in India nowadays, they flaunt the Indian temples, ashrams, fairly kind of acceptable by the international taste. Have you seen any Indian gurus flaunting Khajuraho temple?
What temple then?
Khajuraho is like basically sex, like sex position. That temple is a very important temple. But most of them, they don't really talk about it. Because Washington won't accept you. Because 10 Downing Street will not accept you. Brussels will not be happy with you. Basically, it's like this. But, this really gets me. But anyway, let's go back to our subject. In the Tantra, the real deity is what we have already done. Remember? We did, silent. That's the real deity. now to really get acquainted with this deity. Then there's so many symbolic deities. And they, and these symbolisms are wonderful because it really will bug your normal hang-ups. Like me, I try to be diligent in practicing Tara. And it's really important for me because it really questions my obsession or hang-up of being male. I spent almost half an hour thinking that I'm a woman. Yes, not just that, much more than that, but even just thinking that is already poking holes in your habitual, that casket, that, and then 6 arms, 4 arms, different heads, many heads, all that. Anyway, we were talking about the skillful means of developing creation. So within that comes so many other methods, such as puja, method of puja, meaning offering of flowers, incense, offering of your thoughts, even the most mundane thoughts, your excitement, depression, your whatever, all of this. Oh, so many methods, like an abhisheka, like an initiation, and receiving it from a guru, but also self-initiation, which is actually the big chunk of your practice, self-initiating. And with a very sophisticated mind training. And then creating mandala, outer, inner, secret mandalas. In order to actualize the secret mandala, you create the outer mandala. And even the very structure and the description of the mandala, if we pay attention, we will get a lot of view in it. Okay, for instance, one of the criteria of the mandala. You could be in the center of the mandala and experience the outer door of the mandala, so to speak. Again, here, breaking the boundary of outside, inside. And the mandala itself also comes in a many different format, depending on how much capacity or how much can you handle. If you are, chicken-hearted, then we have a very, sort of easily acceptable mandalas, like walls, 4 doors, roof, garden, peacock hanging here and there, lotus pond, all that. Mainly for the chicken-hearted people. Because for them, mandala means some sort of a comfortable, nice house, right? So as your heart becomes more lion heart, then the mandala is mind-boggling. For instance, like the mandala has pillars. For the chicken-hearted people, is the normal pillar, like a Greek pillar. For the brave heart, each pillars are like Indra, Vayu, like a god, king of the god, king of the asuras, all these mighty people. They are the pillar. And the, what do you call it, the beams, they're all like a king of the nagas, snakes, basically. For the light-hearted people, the walls are made by the bricks of gold, silver, stuff like that. For the brave-hearted people, the walls are made with the bricks of head of human, the gods, all kinds.
Yes.
Heads just cut, freshly cut, meaning their eyes are still moving. And then above that is cut few days ago. So they're smelly. Very important that, smell is important, that bad smell. Then above that is the skull, stuff like that. So it is all designed to really, work with the habit, the dualistic habit that we have. we would take a break, and then when we come back, we would talk a little bit about Sampanikrama, the yoga of dissolution. Now, you must all have heard the Buddhists. Buddhists talk a lot about duality and therefore non-duality. This is an important subject, and this may be one of the big stumbling block for people who don't have much association with cultures like Indian culture. So I think if you were to ask me as a Chilean, I don't know, as a American, as a European, what is it? And if we want to study Buddhism, and perhaps we want to even practice Buddhism, what is it that we should be really paying some attention? Well, everybody, but the non-duality, just put some attention to that. Try to appreciate that. This would be a key for you. Of course, I'm a Buddhist, so I will say the non-duality is fantastic, all that. But it doesn't mean that you have to believe in this. But some of the Asian wisdom, like a Buddhist, definitely, and then Advaita. And then also in China, they have something called Taoism. The value for this non-duality is there. Of course, now, even in those places, nobody has time. Actually, in fact, like the Indians, they have spent so much time and energy and billions actually, and they actually learn to be dualistic as best as possible. It's a bit like this. If you were to ask a Buddhist, what are you most afraid of? Like, what is the Buddhist Satan, so to speak? They would say that it's the dualism. Okay, maybe I'm simplifying it too much. I'm sure I am. But most of the non-Eastern tradition and the thought and the religion, not only they don't mind being dualistic, but they almost encourage dualism. I'm teasing you a little bit, but only a little bit. This is why I feel that this, culture of duality really influences the way you look at the world. Like, I feel that the modern West really is obsessed with, those evil men, let's all kill him. He is the one who is destroying the world. In India, they don't think like that. Bad is good, good is bad. That it's all so, murky in the, real sort of the Indian sort of basic traditional sort of wisdom. Okay, I'm teasing you a little bit. I'm 63 years old. I'm entitled to tease you a bit, especially Americans and English. They always find evil people somewhere. Have you noticed? It's never in London and Washington. It's never there. It's always somewhere. But yes, as I said, I'm teasing you a little bit, but at the same time, I'm serious because I think it has a lot to do with the culture of duality. So yesterday I said already, like Buddha and the lotus, there is already a disruption of duality. Light, fragile lotus and, whole big body sitting, but still okay. So that there is already that disturbing the dualistic, sort of measurement. And some of them a bit silly, but it is kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Like there's a part of India, I think they think that cockroaches are, I think, like a manifestation of wealth deity called Ganesh. And it's very interesting because if you grow up with that, more cockroach the better, right? And I'm sure you South Americans, you will understand this because a lot of your culture, you look at a certain mountain and then you have this affinity, like this mountain is God or something. So if you grow up from a very small age, looking at this mountain, your parents sort of saying this is a God. That versus if you grow up in, I don't know, somewhere in Colorado and, looking at the mountain as a mining, what do you call it? Like a stone and the uranium and whatever, I don't know, mining. Then there's a totally different interaction with that mountain. I think you should pay some attention to the culture of non-wisdom or culture, or I don't know, the tradition or the story of the non-duality. This would really help you. And especially if you want to understand Buddhism and especially Tantra. Oh, Tantra is like non-duality in the most raw form. To, use a very popular saying by the tantric people. Don't let the appearance deceive you, but don't dilute the appearance by your grasping. Don't let the appearance deceive you, but don't dilute the appearance by your grasping. See, these are the, like nuances, or these are the sort of the expressions or sayings. Now, it's not as if you are totally alien to this wisdom too. You have yourself in your culture like things like, oh, appearance is deception. What? Appearance is deceiving? Something like that. You have like optical illusion. I've written a note which I couldn't find. There's actually the whole, like optical is related to eyes, right? And then, all the list of with the ear, with the nose, all have illusion of its own. So with this kind of non-dual view, relating to the world and relating to your body, and also your thought, I don't know, your identity, everything. Okay. Anyway, the yoga or the yoga of dissolution, like a instruction. This is again very big teaching. Probably there are more teachings on this than the yoga of creation. I'm talking about tantric method. Okay, so there's so much. This is really big. Like heat, the practice of heat, Tumo, Kundalini, dream, illusory body, luminosity, and accordingly, the practice of behavior, like behavior. I think we discussed this few yesterday, like there's a practice of like disappearing, not staying in one place. Okay, let's just maybe like, just let's say Tummo, Kundalini, the heat. In Tibetan, Tummo means sort of an angry one, or a wrathful one, or sort of unbearable one, something like that. And also it has a mo. The word mo is the gender is female. Fierce one. That's how people translate. And there's a reason why we use the word. It's associated with a feminine. It's also symbolized with fire. Okay. One thing you need to know is this. Now, Mahayana and the Vajrayana, as I said, it's so very related, but also there's some distinctions. Mahayana people will not use the body too much. So they don't talk things like Kundalini. There's mostly mind training. It is mainly that. They see body and the mind sort of the relationship is more like a container and contents. For Vajrayana, much more complex. Body and the mind, and then there's something else called prana, which they're kind of one, but also different. In the Mahayana, body is only used as a utensil, we call it precious human body. Okay, let's use this body to practice dharma. But in the Vajrayana, much more than that. It's not just a utensil. It is the part and the parcel of the actual practice. So, okay, so for instance, the Kundalini, the most outer form may be using technique to control your posture and breathing, prana. And there's a specific technique, several different kinds, such as vast retention. By doing so, what it does is it creates a special kind of a heat. Now, what does heat do? It burns, it consumes. So the point is, this heat consumes or perishes or burns all the dualistic prana and mental factors or dualistic distinctions, I guess. So that involves a lot of technique. Okay, the most simple and the most profound and the highest level of the Tummo, you can call it like a Mahamudra or Mahasandhi. No breathing exercise, nothing. Completely, totally, directly using the nature of the mind and burn. With that, we burned all the other dualistic thoughts. Also, reason why we use why we are associating this with a feminine kind of energy is because Tummo is actually a very essential practice of shunyata, emptiness. And shunyata is wisdom, always is represented by feminine symbol or feminine kind of quality or symbolism, I guess. Even in the Mahayana, Shunyata is sometimes referred as the mother of all the Buddhas. And then practice of Poa, or transferring the consciousness. It's very tantric. Basically, transferring your consciousness, let's call it consciousness, into part of the guru or so on and so forth. Yeah, I think this practice of the yoga of dissolution is really grand, using the body or the nadi, prana, the air, and then mind, the thoughts, all aiming towards actualization, non-duality. I will let you ask some questions so that I know what I need to explain.
So when you were saying to be sober is the recognition of the nature of mind.
Which one?
When you were talking about being sober and drunk, and being drunk would be this, the non-recognition of this is like the hangover is the process of recognizing this nature.
Hangover?
The path or the way.
I guess hangover can be good for encouragement for, beginner practitioners, like an experience of meditation. You see, this is the thing about mindfulness, which is mindfulness practice that people do today. The experience of the mindfulness that we talk about is usually always a recollection. It's not happening now. So in order to recollect more, we enroll ourselves doing more mindfulness meditation. But ideally, you don't want to recollect. Recollect means something past you are remembering. Ideally, you are never away from it. Yeah, and that should be the aim for the path.
In Garland of Lotuses, Dzongsar Khyentse Rinpoche says, "May there arise in my mind bodhicitta, the inseparability of relative and absolute truth."
Okay, Mahayana level. The relative bodhicitta is like aspiration bodhicitta, like may all be awakened. And applications such as, like actually doing like generosity, discipline, breathing, tonglen, all those things. Now, ultimate bodhicitta is really dwelling with the shunyata, actually. You have to have both. No ultimate bodhicitta will not make the bodhicitta complete. So that's very Mahayana level. And it is, yes, this is totally accepted in the Vajrayana, but they have their own little bit different nuances. Relative bodhicitta is to see all appearance as the deity, all sound as the mantra, all thoughts as the wisdom. And ultimate bodhicitta is, like in the Mahasandhi's case, never to depart Dharmakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Nirmanakaya. They do not contradict the Mahayana and the Vajrayana. They do not. It's just that Vajrayana version is probably more direct and full. Always go back to my gold analogy. Looking at a bag of ore, attitude is, I can make this into gold. I can make this into jewelry. The Vajrayana is, I make or not make, it's a gold.
Well, we often talk of mindfulness, but we don't necessarily know what mind is. So her question is, what is mind for you? Consciousness, processor of emotions and feelings of reality. What is mind for you?
It's a very big question. Answering this question basically ended up having what we call three turning of the wheel of the Dharma. But this is important question, so I will give you a traditional answer because I think you need to hear the traditional answer. It's difficult to understand, but you should hear it. Okay. So question, what is mind? Now pay attention. The answer has three lines, so to speak,
So,
three part. And three part, two contradiction. Okay. First line, mind. Second part, there is no mind. Third line, mind is luminous. So that was the answer by the Buddha himself. This was the Buddha's answer. So the first line is basically what you are talking, feeling, thoughts, ideas. Is this mind? Okay, yes. But second one, if you look at it, it has no color, it has no shape, it's not here, not there, it's not inside. Where is it? Where is the beginning of this? Where is the end of this? All that. So you come to a conclusion that mind is emptiness. But does that mean mind does not exist? No. That's the third one. The third answer is really big. The mind is luminous. Now don't ask me what is that. I mean, ask me, if you want to know, you can ask me again and again. We will, this one is a lifetime project. But on the other hand, earlier, when I said, let's be silent, you did experience that luminous, but it really needs a proper coaching. And you really should look for it. If you are pursuing the Vajrayana path, please have aspiration to pursue this path, because the tradition and the lineage, living lineage that teaches this luminosity is still alive. One of my masters said, one day this living lineage will not exist anymore. Then, no matter what, you can read books, whatever, you will not really get it.
Open
So
it.
I'm trying to slowly get into one of the most important Vajrayana practice, the practice of the Guru Yoga. And we will talk about this briefly this afternoon. Okay, next question.
Rinpoche, because this living lineage is still alive, and you said this morning that you were itching to write a new Nundro that has these other aspects, I wanted to request, please, that you could do that to benefit all the beings of this time, and also that you could do it soon, like this year, or maybe next year at the latest.
I have to think about something for Australians. Okay. Anything else? Yeah, one more.
Yes, thank you, Rinpoche, for all your teachings. My question is about Vajrayana, that sometimes they refer to Vajrayana as the path of bliss. And this word, the bliss, like in our culture, in Spanish culture, is more related to pleasure. And we imagine things that are is going to be like ecstatic. But if you could elaborate a little bit on the resolution of because I think it's a little bit misleading too.
Okay. Yeah, very important. This is going to be an ongoing challenge. By the time you reach to the Tantrayana, doesn't matter Spanish, English, even the Tibetan language is not enough. Tibetan language is not enough, Tibetan idiom, Tibetan analogy is not enough, good enough. But one could say the Tibetans, because they have hundreds and hundreds of years of that culture. So it did help, it does help, that. Okay, so there's a reason for this. It's quite, yeah, it's like this. So, problem. Okay, say this is the problem and this is the solution. When the problem and the solutions are really, really different, then usually this is what we call causal path. Okay, so like a problem, anger, solution, love. Of course, two different, right? So they wage war. Now, as you go to the Vajrayana, Tantrayana, then the problem and the solution become closer, closer, closer. So actually, by the time you reach to the Tantrayana, solution and the problem are the one thing. So difficult to articulate. Bliss. What is in Spanish?
Gozo.
Gozo. What does it mean? Can you tell me?
Ecstasy.
Ecstasy. Okay. Actually, that's important. The sexual, that's an important one. Actually, I don't know whether you have ever thought about it. Do you know why we put such a big deal on the sexual activity? Because it actually is. There's one reason. Actually, people are looking for non-duality. And especially, people are always, longing for the climax. In the height of the climax, if someone asks, how was that? You cannot really talk. You understand? How is it? How is it happening? How is it? You cannot talk. Afterwards, you can say, how was it for you? So then too late. Anyway, but this is good. Okay, so I will tell you, okay, going back to Mahayana. Mahayana used the language emptiness and compassion. Okay? Now in the Vajrayana, let's say Chakra Sambhara Tantra, they, instead of using the word compassion, because they think that word compassion is for kindergarten. Chakra Sambhara Tantra, people say, Mahasukha, the great bliss. But okay, so the essence of the sukha, the bliss, now this is important that I explain. The dukkha or the violent dukkha or suffering, if you ask seriously what is dukkha, what is suffering, or what is violence, the Buddhist answer will be duality. As long as there's a duality, there is pain and there is a violence. So sukha, which is the bliss, is actually the opposite, right? So it's the non-dual state. That is the bliss. So it's okay. You can use the word Tantra is the path for bliss. I think you have no choice. And it's kind of nice word, right? Bliss. If you use word like, oh, Tantra is the path for compassion, it's okay, but you are doing disservice. You are downgrading the tantric ability, so to speak. But I think, of course, not everybody is going to understand it, but at least you yourself can, okay, so that this has got something to do with the non-duality. And and also the non-duality is related to the union. So the greatest union is the inseparability of the appearance and the emptiness, of course. Like the rainbow, it's there, but it's not there. And these two are in union. And that's the matrix, that's the net, that's the, what you call it, organization, so to speak. It's okay, I think Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, I think he used it. That's the orderly chaos. I think he used that. And just because it's in my head, the Taoist, the Chinese Taoism, it's a really profound, I think, I mean, I don't have any time. If I have time, I would really want to learn. They talk about something to do with the chaos, which is so profound. They said that the whole problem begins when we try to make orderly. Things are really good as it is. But then we begin to put things on the shelf. I think it's so nice. It's really. But sadly, I think Chinese also, they really lost so much of their wisdom. Okay, one more question before lunch, I think.
So with duality, we have this, if we think in quantum physics, the light is the particle and the wave. In the body, there's the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. And then the two genuine kayas, which I'd love to hear more about. But there's so much of this duality. I wonder if you could explain it a bit in kind of a physics way, because that seems to appeal to people who are brain damaged like me and educated in those things.
I don't think so, because the only one thing I can tell you is I watched a movie called Dance of the Cosmos or something. So amazing. I was just so amazed. And there was also like discussions among those scientists. And I almost wanted to like, goodness, you guys should really receive the teachings of Mahasandhi, especially there's a teaching called Tögal. They should receive this. But then the problem is they have to become my disciple. It's not going to work.
You wouldn't be willing to be on a panel without that? Like to speak, I think of entanglement, for example. I don't know if you know this, but I think of it as selflessness and the ultimate bodhicitta. But would you be willing to be on a panel without them being your disciples?
I don't know. It sounds very, have to pay so much attention. I was exhausted also, the physics.
Rinpoche, thank you very much for your teachings. It's a great blessing and a great bliss to be here, and soon a great sadness. Many of us do not know the sadness of, or melancholy or saudade of being away from the Guru or the Buddha, someone capable of explaining the Dharma according to each one's capacity is clearly something very hard to find. So I was hoping that in the course of this teaching, a question would arise. But once again, the only question that insisted was, when will you be back to teach on Ati Yoga? And then a request to clarify the notion of extreme conduct when vision is put in practice according to the Tantra.
Keep on asking. It's part of the seven limb. According to Manjushri, every time a person asks any teachings, not just Mahasana, any teachings, according to Manjushri, every time somebody asks, please give me a Buddha's teaching, 70 million cities of demon gets worried and shattered. That's what he said, because their days get numbered. That's what keep on asking. Okay, let's take a lunch.